Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Don't Just Sit There Pod. We are on the Q&A podcast. Our last pod was with Brian Clark. That was fun. That was good.
I thought it was our best podcast.
By far.
As soon as we finished, you turned and you were like, best podcast.
Yeah. I said we made it. I think I said that felt like a...
You think we made it?
Felt like a real podcast. So thanks, Brian, for doing that. That was just good timing, too, with this big announcement and then be able to break it down. And then, you've been around Brian for a while. I didn't know any of that from his life story or process of writing that book.
I think maybe he gave more detail during that conversation, though, than I have heard before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was impressive. Not impressive. It was encouraging and powerful. But now this week we got some Q&As to answer. We got some Q's to try to answer.
Q's to give A's to.
Yeah, that's flowed well.
Yeah.
So let's just get right into it.
Okay.
Well, you had a question for me. Didn't you say that off camera? Or are you joking?
I was joking.
Oh, cool. So you don't.
I wondered if you had seen the have you seen this video of this duck that was sitting on the engine, like I think it'd be called a turbine, technically, right? On the wing of a plane. And it sat there the entire flight as this plane was flying. This duck's just chilling on this engine and doesn't move. And he's so aerodynamic that even when the plane's going like 300 miles per hour or whatever up in the sky,
he's not being pushed back.
The duck's just sitting there.
Wow.
And I was thinking about this duck, and I'm like, this guy landed in a completely different state.
This
and
guy
how confused
the duck.
How confused would this duck be? I think this sometimes with flies too. Like I have a fly in my car, and then
take it for a journey.
When I'm driving to Okoboji or something, and I'm like, this fly has no idea what journey in life he's beginning right now. He thinks he's got a family. He thinks he's got a whole world in Lincoln. And he's about to be completely displaced.
Yeah. He took a nap, woke
flew
up.
into the wrong car.
I'm in Iowa now?
Flew into the wrong car. And he's like, where am I right now? Anyway.
Or you give him the chance to get out. You roll out the window and he doesn't leave.
Yeah,
You're
doesn't
like,
leave.
All right, guess this is it. This is my life now. That felt like kind of an old man thing to say.
Should be a
Did
movie.
you see that
Should
video
be a
about
movie.
the duck? Yeah.
Should be a movie about a fly.
Yeah.
A fly.
Yeah. The adventures of...
That gets separated from his family because he got in the wrong car.
Yeah. What a weird way to start this. Is that a question or that you just saying?
My question I was going to ask you offline was, did you see this video of this duck?
No, that's pretty cool. Yeah. It's more impressive that he just wasn't falling off the plane.
It's very impressive. It
the
almost
way you
seems fake.
phrased it felt like an old man. Did you see that video of the duck?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
I did say to Sam the other day, I said to Sam, did you write mom back? After
he corrected
his mom texted him, he's like, Dad, it is not right. Okay. And it made me think of you.
I had a mom email me saying, thanks for writing back on email. And I was like, I shouldn't correct her, but I should. But I didn't.
No, it's appropriate on email, isn't it? It's not appropriate. She should have said
it's better.
Emailing back. I understand that you harassed me for saying text, not saying
email
text.
Might be a little different. Yeah. I don't lose sleep over that one. I lose sleep over you saying, I'll write you, and then I get a text from you.
Or if someone texts you, then I'm like, hey, write him back.
Yeah.
Hey,
write him back.
Okay. All right. Marshall, we should get started.
Okay. Would you like a cue?
Compared to
we
what?
would.
Oh, like, okay.
You okay?
Well, it's like, what else would we be wanting right now?
I don't know. Here's a cue. What would your walkout song be in a sports context? What sport and then what song?
That's Megan Fletcher. Can I shout her out?
Sure.
I just did. That's her question. She texted me. She works with Husker Athletics, and she was talking to some baseball players about that.
I did used to think about this when my buddies and I would be eating dinner or lunch at Wheaton. We'd have conversations and we said, hey, not just a sport event, but what if every time you walked in a room, there, like, your theme song played?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what would it be? You know,
my wedding intro song was Joker and the Thief. They play it at Husker games. I don't know how it goes. Joker and the Thief. It says the Joker is a wanted. Anyways, that was me and Sophie walking out, and it was so hype. I forgot I was at my wedding. I thought
this is at the reception.
Yeah. They announced it was like Aiden and Sophie Paul, and I thought I was like, about to go fight somebody. I was like, I'm like, oh wait, this is about to go have a toast for our marriage.
Okay.
So that would be my baseball or football.
That would be what you'd come out to.
Instant hype. It's not a build up. You'd be like Mac. You'd be like, give me
Jack Johnson. Be something really laid back and calm. Yeah.
Like Handel's Messiah.
Handel's Messiah.
Yeah, that's what you would
That's
say.
not laid back or calm.
Yeah.
That's like explosion of
Yeah.
joy.
It depends which song.
Different
Yeah,
definition.
true.
Well, I think there's some great intros to songs. So, like Stevie Wonder's "Very Superstitious" is a pretty great intro.
Yeah.
It's pretty funky, so I don't know that it would fit me
No.
real well. There's a song by Johnny Cash that I love.
God'll cut you down.
God'll cut you down.
That one's nice.
And
that feeds your vibe a little bit.
it's good. It's yeah. I might go with that.
Do you know like when the iPhone has the guitar ringtone, like that'd be your intro, like very like whatever. Here he comes. That's what it kind of be like.
The traditional iPhone ring would be my intro.
And it's like, oh, here's Ryan, guys.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It's like cool. It's like, oh, that's kind of an enjoyable song, and then it's over.
Yeah.
And then you get it's annoying really quickly.
Yours would be go listen to the Arrival of the Queen of Sheba. The original, the classical song, and that fits your personality pretty well. You can get a little education.
What's the Queen of Sheba?
No, just watch it. You'll see. Or listen to it. Sorry.
Queen of Sheba. Is that a real country?
No, it's a real. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right,
Good.
let's do it. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Good question. Light and frivolous question.
It's a very serious question if you ask me. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
What would you say, Marshall?
I don't know. I feel like, cause like the instinct is something that's like really intense and hype, but I feel like the funnier
Hans
thing.
Zimmer.
No,
Well, it depends if you're going for funny or for hype.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not going for hype. Like knowing me,
Okay.
I'm not doing like genuine
Yeah.
hype. I would probably do something like Dave Brubeck Trio Take 5.
I knew whatever he said I would not know.
I'm walking out
never
like,
heard of
I
that.
knew
You've heard it.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
Man, it's so hard to know
Jazz.
songs when
Based
people
off
are
of-
trying to
yeah.
people are trying to help you know what the song is.
Yeah.
You would recognize it.
I think
Okay.
like SpongeBob SquarePants theme song. That'd be yours.
That would be funny, actually.
Yeah.
I'd do that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Smooth jazz.
You like
Little Kenny G.
I considered Kenny G.
Little Kenny G. Yeah. I might go. I think I've sent it to you before. Michael W. Smith, Sonata in D major or something like that. It's like on very synthesized keyboards, but it's very epic, and that'd be pretty good too.
How can we read the word of God effectively in today's world? Kind of from the angle of like, you go to church and they're telling you all these things about, well, the original Greek says this, and that's the only way that you can seemingly understand what the actual intent of this passage is. It's like, how can a regular person just like read the Bible?
You think that's what that question's getting at?
That's what they said.
Oh, okay.
With that context,
People send in long, like
Okay.
people send in like letters, and I read all of them, all of
Yeah.
the things that people send in, by the way. If you're ever wondering, did you see my thing? I'm reading all of them,
Yeah.
and we appreciate it. It just doesn't always fit
Yeah,
a
sure, I
question
understand.
exactly.
So when they say how can we read the Bible in today's world, it has to do with somewhat with the complexity of some of the issues and that kind of thing. And how do we not get overwhelmed with that?
Sure.
Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, I think I've talked to you about this before, but what's been really helpful for me has just before reading the Bible, acknowledging the Bible is very complex and confusing, and just like accepting that. Like I was thinking about some of the letters that Paul has written, and I go, "Wow, this is so confusing, and I don't get it." But I kind of put myself in Paul's shoes, and if I wrote a letter to my buddy Trevor, and I wrote down just stuff going on in our life, I wrote down about my life, and someone found it just 30 years later, that's it. There'd be things in that they'd be confused by. If I said like, "Dude, that's sick," I had said this lingo, they might be like, he was sick.
Yeah.
Something was sick. So I was like, okay, if 30 years from now people would be confused by my lingo or the culture, the context of a certain letter written, it's like we have to approach a little bit of Paul's letters, not to discourage somebody from reading them, but like it takes a lot of work and it's really complex. I think truth takes work.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think either me or Brian, I think I would say that we are doing people a disservice if we, by the way we are talking about the text, if we're making it seem inaccessible to people. That'd be bad. I hope that's not happening. Because the Bible's really accessible. And you can glean a ton from the Bible with
like a surface level.
Yeah, just a cursory reading of it.
What's cursory mean?
Like quick, even a superficial first run reading at it, right? You can, like a quick reading, you can get a lot from it, and everything necessary for salvation is understandable. What you're talking about, though, is true. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of times with Paul's letters, we're only reading one side of the conversation. So it's not even you and Trevor. We see the letter between you and Trevor 30 years from now. It's that, and then added to the context, we don't know what prompted the letter to Trevor. Mm-mm. We don't know what Trevor was saying. So you're reading one side of the conversation. So that's hard. And then also it's old.
Yeah.
And it's okay to acknowledge that it's old. I mean, when we get to the Old Testament, we're talking, 3,000 years old, some of the writing, depending on when they were dated. Any book written 300 years ago is going to have a little bit of complexity to it, just in terms of trying to understand where it comes from. But none of that should discourage us in terms of, can I glean truth from it?
Yeah.
The one thing I have thought about studying and preaching quite a bit is sometimes what Brian is doing, what I'm trying to do, is just read slower. I mean, how many times, I don't think our Bible reading should go as slow maybe as we preach through the text. I don't know that you need to sit on 11 verses all week. But it is amazing how quickly we read those 11 verses and we just move on, and we don't stop and say, now what exactly does he mean by that? And you don't need Greek tools or Hebrew tools to understand what he means. You just need to slow down enough to think about it. But then there is this next level of going deeper in understanding that does require some tools. Like there are scholars that have done great work. Yeah. There's a great commentary series called the New Testament background commentary, and then the Old Testament background commentary, where they just, every verse, they don't tell you what the verse means, but they will say, hey, in the Greek culture, this is true at this time, or in, the ancient Near East, this is true. Those things can be helpful. They can illumine things, but the Bible is very accessible. And I think part of it is just, are we reading carefully? Are we being good readers? I think all of us know what it's like to read even a novel, maybe for a class that we had in high school or college or something, and you read 7 pages and you remember, then you're like, I don't recall a single thing I just read. I think that's true with the Bible as well, and it's very accessible if we just slow down and seek to comprehend. I think
I think the context around it is important as well. Sometimes
context around the writings,
around the readings.
Okay.
Because I know sometimes, like you were talking about reading a novel in high school, like reading Shakespeare in a high school class is like inscrutable. Right. But then I would see an actual production, or like the West End will do these live versions that you can watch later with these really famous actors. And I would see these people doing the famous speech from, I think, Macbeth Hamlet. And I'm like, oh, I totally understand all of this. Like, this all makes a lot more sense hearing it as spoken word, hearing it interpreted in a way that can be understood to a modern person.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think what I really appreciate about you and Brian and the way that you preach on the weekend is that you do kind of like illuminate these things in a way that I'm not necessarily seeing if I'm just reading it in my head.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if I'm listening maybe to the Bible as an audiobook, I don't know, I've never tried that. Maybe that would be having James Earl Jones in my head on the Bible
So
app.
when you say reading in context, you mean the context within which it was written, but also not getting like seeing the whole picture maybe, and not just sometimes we can get so caught up on the specific details that we lose sight of even what happened one chapter before.
Yeah.
And so where it sits in the larger story. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's great benefit. There's benefit to, I'm going to contrast what I just said. There's benefit to reading it slow. There's also benefit to saying in one sitting, I'm going to read all of Philippians, and then I'm going to do that the next day. And I'm just going to try to take in the whole thing, not worrying about the details. So both have great merit to them, you know?
And I think, research is important too. Maybe I'm saying this because I was a seminary student too, but it's like this morning I was just on YouTube Reels and something with Christopher Hitchens, famous atheist, came up, and he just claimed the Mary claiming to be pregnant by the Holy Spirit was a fib. She lied about that. And just a claim like that, it's like, it takes time to sit down and do some research. Like, for her to lie about that would be the biggest deal ever. For her to risk shame and, being exiled and the culture, the learning, like to lie about being pregnant now is maybe a little different. To lie back then about being pregnant by the Holy Spirit, would it be a big deal? And learning claims like that we engage with takes time to research. Like what was happening then? Why couldn't have that been true? How do we know Mary wasn't just fibbing? It's like, well, we need to look at the research. We need to look at the context. For someone to claim to be pregnant not by her husband is a huge deal back then.
Yeah.
And I think there is room for research. Like you said, so there's everything we've said has been right. Reading it fast, reading it slow, acknowledging it's complex, acknowledging like I can read it and gather, like we can give it to a child, a middle schooler, you can give it to Jacob or Lucia, and they can gather things. Yeah. And there's also a level of and there's some research you can do to dive into things like, especially when there's people who are teaching the Bible correctly, like what's actually happening here. Yeah. And there's room for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. But I think it's unfortunate if what it feels like is that you can't get the point unless you know what was happening in 63 AD in Colossae or whatever. It's like, nah, I think that is helpful as we try to understand at a deeper level and a more thorough level. But I also cannot know what was happening in Philippi and still gain a ton from what Paul had to say in that letter, you know?
Yeah. Or if you find something confusing, like look it up. Look it up. Try to see what you can find. Ask your pastor. Like find out. There's a lot of things that you can do if you're confused that can help you find those things out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I think about that, Ryan Hart.
That's good. That's good. The only thing I was just thinking about is how like the internet is so great and also so challenging. Yeah. Yep. Because, you search for, what did Paul mean in Philippians 3? And you find 1 billion things that people are saying about that, and that's where I think going to reliable resources, I always think there are pastors, there are churches that are very reliable. I think things like the Gospel Coalition is very reliable. There are reliable resources, because sometimes you get on like whatjoesays.com, and it's like, well, who's Joe? You know? And that can be challenging.
Just people throwing their thoughts. Yeah.
If there really is a whatjoesays.com, I don't either endorse or not endorse what is on that webpage.
But come on, if that's real.
If that's a real website.
Have you ever been to a howdareyou.com?
I think that website came down. I don't think it's there anymore.
No, you sent me it and it's spelled wrong.
Yeah, I saw you.
Did you?
I saw. It was like autocorrect or something.
I'm not finding a whatjoesays.com, unfortunately.
Okay. All right,
so I'm getting a lot of news about the former president instead.
We're safe. Okay.
Let's get into that.
Yeah. Would you like another cue?
Yep.
Kind of to go along with that one a little bit, what is a good/modern Bible version? Like, what would you like? I mean, what do you guys personally like read? And then I don't know.
We could talk about this a long time.
Let's not.
It's an interesting question.
Keep it short.
There's one night where I bored my life group to death with this conversation.
You helped me with this a little bit. I grew up in the NIV. My dad gave me Bible NIV. I've known nothing but the NIV. My campus ministry was ESV. All of them were solid.
Just New International Version, English Standard Version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started reading CSB like the last 5 months. And
That's what I've been doing.
Christian
Standard Bible.
And it has been so refreshing. I don't know why, but I went to Mardell's and they have like a graph of like thought for thought, word by word. Where do they fall on that?
Yep.
And I thought CSB was way more like thought for thought. It's kind of like you don't even know if it's true.
No, it's not.
And it's not. It's more literal, I think, than NIV on there.
Yeah, it would be.
It was awesome. I love it. But
literal, yeah. Yeah, literal. We need to be careful with that word.
Sorry.
Because the NIV translators believe they're translating what it literally meant. They're just not translating it word for word, right? So an example would be when Paul says, he refers to, I want all men to do X, Y, and Z, but he clearly intends that to be inclusive of men and women because he's talking to the whole church. Mm-hmm. The NIV might translate that all people, and they would say, well, that's literally what Paul meant. But the CSB or the ESV or the NASB might say, well, that is probably what he meant, but we just, our philosophy of translation is we only want to translate it word for word. Mm-hmm. So whatever the word is, that's the way we're going to translate it. And so that word literal, I think sometimes it can throw people off a little bit because we're like, well, I want the most literal version. And it's a different philosophy of translation that guides that. But
so you teach NASB from stage?
We use the New American Standard Bible here. It is so on the spectrum of translation, it's very word for word. Mm-hmm. So, and then not only word for word, but the way the word is used in one place is the way it's generally translated then every place. So, that makes it somewhat rigid to read. Mm-hmm. It's not the most readable. Mm-hmm. But for study, we find that really helpful. The one that would be closest to it would probably be the ESV, English Standard Version. And then the Christian Standard Version. Then you get the NIV. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you get something like the Message, which is still a translation because he's trying to translate it.
People would disagree with that. Wouldn't they say it's
a paraphrase? I mean, he doesn't call it that. And actually, he was attempting when he wrote that, Eugene Peterson, when he wrote it, it was when he was at a church in Maryland and he was trying to communicate. He was taking the Greek, let's say, of Ephesians, and he was trying to communicate it for his people in a way those people in Maryland would understand. So he was doing translation work.
Yeah.
But certainly, it's like idea for idea. It is not word for word. And so it could be more wordy. He uses language that I sometimes like, and sometimes I'm like, I would never say that. There was one time where I was reading a psalm in the Message, and it was like, we were filled with joy, festival joy. And I'm like, no one says festival joy. Okay. And no, I don't even know what festival joy is. So anyway, I think for study, the CSB, the ESV, or the NASB are really good. But the NIV is a good Bible. A New Living Translation is...
That's what we use for
they use it in youth, and it's very readable. And it's very... they're going to do, and the reason I would prefer to not use that when I'm preaching is because they're making interpretive decisions for me in their translation. Whereas that's part of what I feel like that's my job a little bit as I'm reading it. And so now it does make it very understandable. But readers also need to know that those people have made some decisions about what Paul meant. Yeah. And I might agree with the decisions they made. I might not agree with the decisions they made. But it doesn't make it an unfaithful translation. It is. I know when I was at Wheaton, a bunch of my professors were on the translation committees for the New Living. And they're great guys, faithful guys. And they wouldn't say it's even better than the New American Standard. They would just say it's different. It's a different type of translation with a different philosophy of translation that guides it, Can I nerd out for a second on this?
Can I set a timer on it?
Yeah, sure. Okay. What's my timer?
45 seconds.
What?
You need more than that.
45
1 minute.
seconds. All right. So here's something that's very cool.
Start a stopwatch, and then we'll just see how long it actually goes.
Okay. So we have our original Greek. Are you going to do the original Ring to make fun of me? That is my walk-up song. I'll put that on. Okay. So on the Greek manuscripts that we have.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
There are these things called variants. So sometimes we find two versions of the Greek manuscript, like on papyrus or something, and they have slight variations. All right. So this is very encouraging to me. When the people putting that text together are trying to decide which variation to choose, they'll always choose the one that's more confusing. They'll always choose the one that's shorter. They'll always choose the one that's earlier, that was dated earlier. So the reason for that is, go ahead.
I wasn't. Explain the variances again, real quick.
So like we
words
go
or
to
whole
a cave in Turkey. We find two ancient papyri of the same text, Philippians 1. Okay. But they have slight variations in them.
Yes.
Okay. So the one that is more confusing is the one that
they'll use.
So like, this is not true of other religions, but this is true of Christianity. They'll pick the one that's more confusing because the assumption, and I think it's a logical assumption, is that someone, a scribe that was transcribing Philippians 1, would seek to make it clearer, not less clear. And so because we're trying to get back as close as possible to the original writing, it's more likely that a scribe would work to make the text clearer than less clear. So we believe that the less clear one probably is closer to the original because a scribe, probably with a good heart, was like, I think that this is more clear. What they meant was this, and they'll add something. Not in a devious way. They'll add it because they think they're helping. But because we believe the authority is tied to the original author's intent, the Christian scholars that put those texts together will choose the one that's more confusing because our commitment to getting back to the original is so strong. That's not the timer you were talking about. Anyway, I find that really encouraging.
Yeah.
I find it encouraging because the rigor of the people that are doing the deep research and doing the deep study of the text aren't trying to bake it in favor of like, well, this makes it easier for us. They're actually doing things that make it harder because they're so committed to getting back to the original. You know, I find that really encouraging.
And even this could be a whole different question of how we got the Bible.
Yeah.
There's some views like whether it's different religions where it's like, we just found it and someone decided it's like, no, there was a process and years and decades of finding it and wrestling with certain parts of it and what's in the canon, what's not.
Right.
Which is, I think it's validating of the faith of this wasn't just some percent revelation and said, this is what I'm going to believe. It was like, that could be
different cue.
Different Q.
It's a different Q.
For a different A for a different time. For a different T.
A different day.
Different D.
Yeah.
Lots of letters. You want another Q?
You keep asking that. What else do you want?
I don't know. Someday you might ask me for something else and I'll have to deliver and I need to be prepared.
That's true.
I don't know. So do you want another Q?
Thank you for your service.
I'm happy to serve. How can we experience a more fulfilled spiritual life in a world full of distractions, mainly technology?
Ryan's going to get on a soapbox for this one.
I'm all over this
I'm
one.
going to back up and I'm going to the bathroom. And how do we experience a more spiritually fulfilled life in the world of distractions, specifically technology?
Yeah, mainly technology, not necessarily specifically. There's all kinds of distractions, but it is like technology. Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm actually going to ask you, if you were president of the United States,
if I was president
and
of the
you
United
could
States.
control everything, what would you do with internet? So separate things: internet, social media. If you could go dictator and you're going to make so many people mad with doing it as a president. First of all, what would you do with internet?
Well,
What would you executive order?
No, I don't.
Come on, it'd be fun. Just answer the question.
It's a different. I can't answer that the way. I mean, you can't take away people's freedom. That doesn't work.
Not okay.
That doesn't work.
But like in you, like you're like if everybody.
What would my advice be? What would I advise?
If everyone would say, Ryan, we're going to submit to whatever you say, and everyone's happily, joyfully getting in line to follow you.
See, I'm not going to satisfy you because I'm just going to say, be cautious. That's what I'm going to say. I'd be cautious. There's no question that like there's vast amounts of research now that show that that our ability to focus, all of that stuff is being compromised. I just saw, even for adults recently, a study just came out that shows that we can't focus very long because of the type of media we're consuming. And I don't think that's just even the internet. I think even news cycles are so all over the place. It could be this constant stream of new information that comes out in 7-minute chunks. Like, you know, everything's working to make us less capable of focusing, you know? No, that's not even to get into. Technology is a neutral word, right? I'm really thankful for technology. We couldn't do this podcast without technology, right? I mean, you know, so technology in itself isn't bad, but I think the thing is just how do you walk wisely with it? And there's a lot of dangers that come with modern technology. So the question is how do you maintain or how do you pursue a deep spiritual life, for lack of a better word, with the reality of technology? And I would say the answer has to be use it wisely, right? We can talk about more, but that's the answer, right?
Okay, then not just technology, just the world of distractions.
And distractions, I mean, use it wisely. I think the reason I'm trying to be precise is because I could talk about this for 7 hours, probably. Yeah.
I mean, it kind of goes back to the vision, right? Review of God.
Yeah.
It's cheesy to sound. Is God better than, I'm calling myself out, is God better than March Madness?
Right.
Some days I'm like, I don't know. March Madness is pretty awesome.
I think watching God, there's nothing wrong with watching March Madness.
Yeah. For those, I'm saying when I'm scrolling YouTube Reels, it's good for me to pause and go, what am I doing? Is there something I could, does God want me doing this? He's not anti-YouTube. He's not anti-looking at my phone every once in a while, but is there a better life offered to me? Which sounds very spiritual and very big vision, but I mean, sometimes, especially with you were saying, like the algorithms and the way things are set up, it's like it is made to like keep us attached.
Right.
So it's like, you gotta have a pretty big, I feel like you have to have some sort of vision of like.
Yeah. And I think the thing that's harder when we're young, I think this is true, is it's difficult to be worried about what this is producing in me that's not going to rear its head for 5 years.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's hurting you.
Yeah, it's not right here. So even though even though scrolling or whatever actually is making it more difficult for me to focus, which let's extend 5 years out. You're about to have a baby. 5 years out, your capacity to be very focused on your child is going to be diminished because of what you're sowing, what you're cultivating today. And does that matter to you? But if you're unwilling or unable to zoom out and consider the long-term ramifications, then the gratification in the moment is always going to win the day, right? It's, you know, those things are made to be pleasurable. They're made to be interesting and funny or whatever, you know? And so it takes someone being willing to say, what is this doing to me?
Yeah.
And
how's it forming me? Do you ever think,
that's hard.
Do you think whether Berean or some other church, Berean offers groups on, with sex addiction, with alcoholism, things like that. Churches are good at that. Do you think we'll ever get to a spot where there'll be groups for phone addiction where it's like, I can't stop. I spend hours. I cannot stop. I need help.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Celebrate Recovery would probably, any addiction, any type of addiction could be addressed there. But To me, my biggest concern, that's a big concern about distraction. So getting back to the original question, there does have to be a decision. You got to make a decision. Like I don't think this is producing in me either joy or it's not helping me become who I want to be. Let's just say. I have a friend that used to say, you can't become what you're not becoming, right? Like you can't be who you aren't becoming. Like if I have a vision of, man, in 10 years, I just love to be the kind of person that does this. Well, am I doing anything today that would lead to that outcome? I think that's a question.
Yeah.
And, so it takes a decision. But I think the way the technology wires us is important to me, but I think probably more important is like, man, like the problem of pornography. I always link technology and pornography, just in terms of,
especially now.
Yeah. So I always think there's an interesting thing that's happened, in my opinion, with technology, and that's that two things can happen. Like, I am Ryan Harmon. I am in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm currently in an office in Lincoln Berean Church, and I'm here, right, with you two. What technology does and what the internet does is it also allows me to be all over the world. I can see what's happening around the world right now, and that's an incredible extension of who we are as people, and that's really difficult because I want to be concerned with the suffering, let's say, that's happening right here in our world. But what technology does is it makes me privy. I get to know about suffering that's happening everywhere. And I don't think human beings are capable of caring about suffering that's happening everywhere. And so I think that's a challenging thing, because I think it's almost like you start to become numb to suffering anywhere because you're hearing about suffering everywhere. I think the other thing is it starts to make you enraged. You get so angry because you see injustice 7,000 miles away. And it's like, we need to say something about that injustice. And I'm like, that injustice is evil, but it is 7,000 miles away. Like, what are the injustices that are happening right here that I can roll up my sleeves and I can get involved in? Right. And then the other thing is so it's this extension, right? It's a little bit like credit cards. Credit cards are money you don't have. Yeah. Technology allows you to be in all these places you are not. Yeah. And then you go into the world of pornography, and pornography is like, I sometimes will say to guys that, like, your phone is a little bit like, it's like a gentleman's club in your pocket. Like, the fact that you can go to all these places and see all these things that no one knows about, and you have unfettered access to this world that is going to be destructive. Yeah. Man, it is very, very dangerous. And I just don't think, I mean, no one uses the word brothel anymore, but I used to think that a phone is like a brothel in your pocket. Like, you don't have to go into that place anymore. You don't have to go out to drive to that place. You can just access it all right here. And in human history, what an incredibly rare and dangerous moment. And I don't even think we begin to know how damaging that is. So that's not at all what the question was about, but
it's important.
I think about this a lot. So
it's fired up.
Get fired up.
Fired up.
Yeah. So
that's a big question. Yeah.
It is a big question, but yeah, the anonymity of it.
What does that mean?
You can be anonymous, right? I'm sorry. If Marshall needs to put a viewer discretion advised, I'm talking about pornography all the time. But like, it used to be like if someone decides, I'm going to go to a strip club, they are going to be seen. That's social. There might be some shame that's attached to that, right? Because it's like, man, so-and-so saw me walk in. It's a very public event.
Yeah.
All of that stuff now is anonymous. It's not public at all. And that means it's allowed to be very hidden, very dark. And that makes that addiction incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
And I think counselors and therapists would agree that it's one of the most difficult addictions to overcome, So I'm doing my rant on technology. This is my old man rant.
It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you learning right now?
What am I learning right now?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Let's bring some personality in this. Let's get personal.
I mean, I'd say like learning how to walk in dependence upon God. I mean, I don't know that we ever stop learning that, but if I'm really honest, if people ask me about what we talked about last time with Brian, is there some concern about like, what's it going to be like? My 17 years at Lincoln Berean, Brian's always been here. So is there a little bit of like, man, what's that going to be like?
Yeah.
And does that stir up a measure of insecurity? Like I hope we can be honest enough that we don't have to pretend and be like, no, it'll be good. Like,
yeah,
that's concerning.
Yeah.
That's going to be really different. Which is a moment where then you say, Lord, you're in charge. So I'm going to, in humility, be dependent upon you. So it just seems as though that's been a theme, really, I'd say, over the past 4 years. I mean, it's like this constant moment where you're like, I don't know that I can predict what 2 months from now is going to look like. And so I have to be dependent. And I don't know that I ever arrive at a place where I'm like, full dependence, got it covered.
Yep.
So it's this constant learning for me. And I'd say that's the learning that is most up in my grill right now, up in my face, is that. What would you say?
Like that as in like learning how to depend on God specifically in the situation with Brian moving on and
yes, but also everything, not just about that, but everything surrounding it.
Yeah.
I mean, just it's this not putting trust in the things of the flesh or in your own strength or your own ability, your own capacity to manipulate things so that everything will be okay. Like, who wants success according to those means? So it is just this. I'm just trusting. How do I continue to grow in trusting God? And abandoning outcomes to Him and keep trusting Him. That's the walk of faith. And so it just feels like I have and we have a lot of opportunity to do that in these days. So it just feels like if there's a theme, that's the theme.
It's probably good for now to the listeners to be like, wonder how Ryan's feeling about this. Like, he's our lead pastor, but Brian's been on Hope with Teaching, and now Brian's leaving, just to get in your head a little bit of like, what's Ryan thinking?
I don't know.
Good to know.
I was thinking when Brian talked to our staff a couple weeks ago about what he was going to announce on the weekend, it occurred to me that in my life there'd been two pastors that I've sat under their leadership for 13 years. That's the max for me. So Brian's one. The other one is the pastor I grew up under in Omaha, who's a family friend. His son's my best friend. But I also was like 2 years old when I was under his leadership. And so there's been no pastor more formative for me in terms of years spent under their teaching and under their leadership than Brian. So that's a big deal, you know? It's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a huge
What about you?
I am... This is very practical, and I didn't ask this so I could just give... I didn't like pre-think of this.
You just wanted to tell us this.
Here's what
next
I'm
thing
learning,
that you're going to tell us.
Here's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm you can know this. A guy named Brother Lawrence.
Yeah.
Is he the guy who like tried to bring God to his mind every minute of every day? Like,
No.
Who's that?
That guy was named Frank Laubach. who was a
way off.
missionary in the Philippines, but it's the same idea. Brother Lawrence wrote Practice of the Presence of God.
Yeah.
He was a monk, and he realized that even in the menial work he was doing, peeling potatoes,
Doing dishes,
he could enjoy God's presence. Frank Laubach is kind of the same, but he did this thing called the Game with Minutes, where it was trying to pull
every
God.
minute.
Yeah, it was like 1 second of every minute of every hour of the day, which to me feels a little
Not at
over.
night, right? Like you wouldn't wake up in the middle of the night.
No, but it was more just how do I cultivate an awareness of God's presence.
Yeah.
So Brother Lawrence, though, is the classic kind of originator of that idea.
Okay. Well, I've been trying to just kind of think through like how often am I aware that God is actually with me? Because I think one of the I've been doing a lot of research on other religions and atheism. I think one of the biggest benefits, that's a bad word, is like the fact that Christianity teaches that God is with his people individually and corporately. That's a huge deal. I don't know of any other religion that teaches that and then affirms that, and that and it's true. Like somehow Jesus is with his people, Spirit is with his people, in his people, around his people all the time. But that's a huge deal. If you like pause to comprehend the God who created everything is able to be with you. And I think if you, again, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, if you asked a test, it knew if God's with you, but all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't ever cognitively, is that the right word?
Sure.
Bring that to mind a lot.
Yeah.
So I've been asking ChatGPT, how can I make my phone remind me every 10 minutes to think about God? And I was like, I don't want a timer. They had nothing to offer me. So I bought a pills medication for like old people that reminds them to take a medication. So every 10 minutes, no, it's every 30 minutes, but it has a 10-minute snooze. So every 10 minutes I get a buzzer that says, take medication, God's presence on my phone. And it's a little uncomfortable. It's a little annoying after a while. So I won't do it for longer than maybe a couple days. But it's like, it's amazing how I don't do it. And then also it's like, there's a sense of relief almost every time I just go, God, I acknowledge you're with me right now. And that's it. And that's some pretty, I don't know what to do with that in terms of like bringing him into certain things more, but that's been like one small step of believing that God is a God who wants to be with me and he is with me. How can I like just very practically remember that?
Yeah.
That's been fun.
That's good. I mean, that's one of the values of memorization, right? Is that I can walk through my day and I can just be chewing on a piece of scripture, and that essentially serves as a prompt to remember, it's Psalm 16. I've set the Lord always before me. He's at my right hand. I won't be shaken. And I can walk through my day with that. And that has a similar kind of effect. I've thought about that because I have an Apple Watch, and I've thought, man, if it would just ding me every 5 minutes or whatever. And
That's
I'm
what
like,
it
someone needs to, so this pill thing does
medication.
that?
It's called pills. I think it's called pills.
You bought it.
It's free.
Don't buy it. Take your medication.
Yeah. It just says medication, God's presence.
That's what you put for your medication?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Literally it buzzes every time. Like right now it just says there are 2 medications to take because I didn't take the first one or I didn't snooze it, whatever.
Yeah.
You would like it. You should do it.
Maybe I will. What's it called? Is it pills?
I don't know.
Pills.
It's just an app called Pills.
No.
LLS.
You just search pills on your local app
It's
store.
called Pill Reminder.
Pill Reminder.
It has like a little pill. Little 2 pills.
Little pill right there. Yeah. Let's get an update on our don't just sit there commitments.
Oh yeah.
You've kind of taken on a new don't just sit there commitment.
I'm always not just sitting there, man.
Yeah.
I got plenty of commitments. I'm constantly standing.
You barely sit. Your life is a standing desk.
Yeah.
You just constantly moving.
Life. I'll sit when I'm dead.
Some people get 10,000 steps. Aiden, you get 30,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll sit
Mine
when I'm
was
dead.
Matthew 6 and slowing down. I've done both. I will say we found out our gender of our baby, and I tried to go. We went to the appointment where we find it out, and I was like, okay, I know I'll be jittery. I'm gonna try to go slow. Impossible. I was like, couldn't stop moving, hauling to the waiting room.
All that nervous energy.
Yeah, they were 20 minutes behind. I was like, this is the worst. We're having a girl, by the way. There's a video of me dunking it for a gender reveal of basketball.
LeBronda is the name.
LeBronda, or you said?
LeBronda was mine.
I heard LeBronda and LeBronetta.
Ryan is a girl name too. There's girl Ryans. You could name your daughter
could go
Ryan.
Yeah, I'd be honored.
I want to name
I'd
her
be
Bronny.
honored.
Ryan, Marsha, Polly.
No.
Okay.
I already have a name picked out. It's adorable. We're having a girl. I can't wait. Slowing down, it's been good. It's constantly on my mind. I'm not doing it well every time.
Yeah.
I haven't really meditated on Matthew 6 much, but no, I did today. I said, God, would you be the Matthew 6 type of God that provides for my weekend? I get anxious on weekends for some reason because I'm trying to cramming everything into the weekend. And I was like, God, just, you seem like you say, look at the birds, look at the lilies. I'll take care of those. I'll take care of you. So I said this morning, God, help me have that mindset of, you'll take care of, I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. You'll give me rest. You'll give me things to do that are life-giving.
You're going to be watching Final Four is what you're going to be doing. I already know what.
Wedding tonight, basketball game tonight, basketball tournament tomorrow, basketball games to watch tomorrow night, wedding Sunday. Church is in there too.
Yeah.
I have a job still.
Yeah.
I work here.
Your weekend's covered.
Good.
Yeah.
I trust God though. Trust me.
Yeah. Mine was trying to take up the call to pray right away. And that has been a posture. It's been really good.
You praying more?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, more quick to pray. And it's been gratifying even with people to not say to them, hey, I'll pray about that, but just to pray with them right now. There was one of the every staff meeting, and I think this is true across all little even sub teams and that kind of thing. We usually start meetings by talking about what would be a high point or what would be a thing that you saw or a way you saw God show up in your personal life and also in your professional life.
A high point, like a highlight. I've never heard of high point before. Highlight. So anyway, there was a guy who came in, this gentleman came in this week. He emailed me out of the blue. Hey, can I get together with you? And he didn't tell me why. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Of course. So we were sitting here on Tuesday and he says to me, I was home. I was praying for you. But I got prompted I should come pray for you in person. So I just wanted to come in just to pray for you. Wow.
And it was amazing.
Like a long prayer? Or was it just like you came in, prayed for 2 minutes?
Oh, we chatted for a bit. A great guy. Chatted for a bit. We connected and then we prayed together. And it was just a great encouragement.
That's cool.
So it was someone essentially the thing that I was saying I want to do with people. It was essentially someone.
He did. Yeah.
But he didn't just pray in the moment. He also sought me out and took time out of his day, which was, I just thanked him for, God prompted him and he was obedient to that prompting. It was amazing.
Really cool.
It was a really encouraging thing.
It'd be nice to have. That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thankful. It was a way I just said to him, he blessed me. He blessed me that day. So, all right,
listeners, if you're doing any challenge, let us know. We want to hear about your don't just sit there challenges.
Yeah, good call. And also send your cues because we're getting low on cues.
A little bit.
And we want cues that some are serious, but it's okay if you also have a cue that is a little bit, I don't know, not so serious. Thanks for joining in. Again, send your cues and your questions to us. You can either do that by commenting on Spotify or on YouTube if we allow comments on YouTube or any other social media channel where you are watching or listening to this podcast. You can also email us at don'tjustsitTherePod@lincolnberean.org. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye now.